Welcome to This Explainer. Consider this your masterclass for the Fast Free Film School. Today, we are executing a rigorous, no-nonsense examination of zero-budget vertical cinematography. This is not a theoretical overview. This is a direct, technical blueprint for producing professional-grade microdramas for mobile-first platforms without traditional financial constraints. The shift from horizontal to vertical is not a passing trend you can ignore. It is a fundamental reorganization of cinematic language. Mastering it requires absolute technical discipline, strict adherence to new framing geometries, and a complete reimagining of your production workflows. Our syllabus today follows a strict linear progression. We begin with pre-production and zero-budget funding mechanics, move into the structural paradigm shift of vertical cinematography, detail the specific mobile hardware configurations required, and then cover set logistics. Finally, we advance through post-production episode structuring and conclude with platform distribution and venture financing. Section 1. Pre-production and zero-budget funding. We must first redefine our terminology. Zero-budget filmmaking is never an excuse for amateurism. It is the strategic execution of professional cinematic production relying entirely on technical mastery and resource allocation rather than traditional capital. A lack of money is simply a constraint. It is not a stylistic choice. Your primary objective is to make the budget completely invisible on the screen. Making the budget invisible means relying entirely on ironclad script structure and exceptional raw actor performance, rather than masking your narrative deficits with expensive visual effects or sprawling, uncontrollable locations. To bypass these constraints, you must leverage external institutional funding rather than your own bank account. For example, the WAVE grant provides a $5,000 seed grant specifically for the scripted directorial debuts of women and non-binary filmmakers. On a larger scale, the Creative Capital Award offers unrestricted project grants scaling from $15,000 all the way up to $50,000. These are substantial capital injections that entirely change your production parameters. For hardware, the Panavision New Filmmaker program provides professional film or digital camera packages at little to no cost for emerging talent. You must target these specific avenues aggressively before you even think about calling action. Now, a critical error in zero-budget pre-production is the utilization of friends and family for casting. This immediately and irreparably degrades your production to amateur status. Professional necessity dictates that you source properly trained actors. You will approach local theater companies during their off-season, and you will scout local acting schools. Trained performers are often highly willing to work for free in exchange for professional, high-resolution portfolio footage and on-set experience. Your production value relies entirely on their trained emotional delivery, not on your personal relationships. Sourcing locations and physical assets requires the exact same strategic approach. Observe how a professional environment is constructed without capital. Organizations like EcoSet, located in Los Angeles, are vital resources for achieving this. They absorb materials, flats, props, and furnishings from wrapped professional productions and redistribute them at absolutely no cost to independent artists and students. You must utilize these sustainable, zero-cost avenues to build a physical environment that registers as authentic and professional on camera. This ensures your logistics do not drain your non-existent budget. Section 2. Cinematography for vertical formats. The core psychology of the 9:16 frame is governed by what media psychologists define as parasocial interaction. Traditional 16:9 cinematography functions as a proscenium arch. It's a distant, wide stage that the audience observes passively. The vertical frame, however, acts as a portal. It mimics the perspective of a mirror or a smartphone video call, creating an intense, one-sided intimacy. You are not creating a panoramic spectacle. You are creating a claustrophobic, immediate connection where facial dominance is the primary visual anchor. Your sets matter far less than the microscopic emotional shifts on your actor's face. To execute this tight and close cinematography properly, you must follow strict mechanical steps. First, anchor your subject's eyes in the upper third of the frame. Placing eyes in the lower half creates severe psychological discomfort for the viewer. Second, fully utilize the vertical y-axis. Vertical narratives naturally favor up and down motion. Think characters climbing stairs or objects falling, rather than lateral panning. Finally, abandon the traditional rule of thirds. The vertical frame demands the rule of fifths. Because lateral space is completely eliminated in vertical shooting, pushing the subject to the extreme outer fifth of the structural grid is the only mathematical way to maintain psychological looking room in the opposite direction. Your lens selection directly dictates the spatial reality of this vertical portal. Prime lenses are mandatory for maintaining discipline here. A 35mm lens will effectively establish your environment, but it risks edge distortion if a face comes too close to the boundaries of the vertical frame. A 50mm lens offers a natural human perspective, making it ideal for intimate, two-person dialogue captured in medium close-ups. Finally, an 85mm lens physically compresses the background. This creates beautiful cinematic separation and a claustrophobic intensity perfectly engineered for extreme, emotion-driven close-ups. You must calculate this depth compression precisely. Section 3. Mobile Tech and Equipment Sourcing. If you are shooting on an iPhone, you must immediately dial in exact parameters to bypass the native computational photography that creates an amateur, over-sharpened aesthetic. Set your base resolution to 4K. Lock your frame rate at the cinematic standard of 24 frames per second. Most crucially, if you are using a modern device like the iPhone 15 Pro or the upcoming iPhone 17 series, enable Apple Log recording via the free Blackmagic Camera app. Apple Log fundamentally changes the sensor data. It preserves maximum dynamic range in the extreme highlights and deep shadows, completely flattening the image so it can endure professional color grading later. Finally, engage the lock camera function to prevent the device from automatically switching its internal lenses mid-shot, which will absolutely ruin your continuity. Understand that a naked phone cannot produce a stable, cinematic image. You must physically build a stabilized, motion blur-capable rig. Begin with a metal chassis, such as a small rig or B-script. This adds necessary physical weight and provides mounting points for your audio and lighting receivers. Next, attach a variable ND filter, ideally from a brand like Polar Pro or Freewell. Mobile cameras have fixed internal apertures. To shoot at 24 frames per second in broad daylight without triggering the jarring, hyper-realistic soap opera effect, you must use an ND filter to manually reduce the incoming light. This ensures your shutter speed remains locked at 1/48th of a second, introducing natural, cinematic motion blur to your actor's movements. External anamorphic or telephoto lenses can then be mounted over the primary sensor to further control your depth of field. I must be absolutely clear on the principles of equipment sourcing. You will rent. You will not buy. Purchasing high-end peripheral gear depletes your operational runway immediately. Camera bodies and digital sensors depreciate the exact second they leave the store. Your hard-earned capital is infinitely better spent on feeding your crew, securing unique locations, or funding post-production. You will utilize peer-to-peer rental platforms like ShareGrid. This system allows you to pool resources with local filmmakers, securing professional-grade lighting, audio, and grip equipment for pennies on the dollar, exclusively for the precise days you need them. Section 4. Production Logistics and Set Operations. Look at this number. This represents your entire schedule. Vertical microdramas are frequently shot as an entire 52-episode series in a severe, uncompromising 5-day production window. This aggressive pacing constraint means you will be averaging roughly 10 to 11 episodes per day. There is virtually zero margin for error. There is no time for elaborate, sprawling blocking or performing multiple takes for minor line flubs. You must arrive on set with absolute clarity, knowing exactly what the frame requires, capturing the primary narrative turn immediately, and instantly moving on to the next setup. Budget allocation during this rigorous 5-day sprint is absolutely crucial. Visual aesthetics can be effectively achieved through cheap DIY lighting solutions. You can use $50 hardware store clamp lamps and simple shower curtains for diffusion to sculpt professional cinematic shadows in a standard home environment. Audio, however, is an uncompromising necessity. You cannot fake good sound, and audiences will immediately scroll past poor audio. You must deploy 32-bit float audio equipment. Place compact transmitters like the DJI Mic 2 directly on the actors, or boom a Rode VideoMic NTG just inches out of the vertical frame. 32-bit float audio is mathematically impossible to distort or clip. If an actor suddenly screams during an emotional climax, the waveform data is perfectly preserved and can be flawlessly normalized in post. Section 5. Post-production and episode structuring. Vertical drama editing is dictated by severe narrative compression. There is no time for slow connective tissue or sprawling world building. You will employ a rigid 3-block architecture for every single 90-second episode. Seconds 0 to 15 represent the hook. You must start mid-crisis to instantly arrest the viewer's scroll. Seconds 15 to 60 serve as the escalation of that single narrative turn, raising the stakes through dialogue and tight pacing. Seconds 60 to 90 must conclude with a severe, unresolved cliffhanger. Do not underestimate this step. The cliffhanger is the sole psychological mechanic that triggers an immediate, mandatory impulse for the viewer to click and unlock the next episode. It is the fundamental mechanism that monetizes a vertical drama. To process the flat Apple Log footage you meticulously captured, you will rely on professional-grade, zero-cost software. DaVinci Resolve remains the industry standard. Its free version contains every node and tool necessary to apply customized lookup tables, or LUTs, allowing you to execute vertical-specific color grading that pulls rich contrast and cinematic skin tones right out of your log files. For rapid vertical formatting, applying professional title and credit formatting, and using sharp transitions to mark absolute episode breaks, CapCut provides an extremely efficient timeline. Finally, utilize the free music archive to source fully legal, high-quality audio stems and tension-building tracks without spending a single dollar of your capital. Section 6. Platform Distribution and Financing. Your initial distribution markets are inherently mobile first: TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. These specific streaming platforms act as the ultimate testing grounds for your audience retention rates. Furthermore, if you choose to route your finished microdrama through the traditional festival circuit, you must structure split payment mechanics for your cast and crew. If your zero-budget production wins festival cash prizes, those funds should be systematically divided among the actors and technicians who initially worked for free, establishing your professional integrity. Once you have proven your ability to execute within this format, you will apply for targeted financing. Raw Ventures currently offers a €10,000 grant specifically engineered for creators actively shaping the future of vertical storytelling. Exceptional technical execution at this stage opens the door to an immensely larger opportunity, which is a potential €3 million investment directly from their media fund. The capital absolutely exists for those who possess the discipline to claim it. This concludes The Explainer. The theoretical framework, the specific hardware parameters, the logistical pacing, and the structural blueprints have all been comprehensively laid out before you. The barrier to entry in the multi-billion-dollar vertical market is no longer financial. It is entirely a matter of your own technical execution and directorial discipline. My final professional challenge to you is this: how will you apply these strict constraints to engineer your very first zero-budget vertical microdrama? Class dismissed.